Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people. They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another Mission Unstoppable Radio. I am your host, Frankie Picasso, and I'm so thrilled that you're here to join us today. Oh my gosh, we've got a great show. Today we are going on a new mission to a place that many of us have never been or experienced. Our guide today is an entrepreneur. She's an author, speaker, visionary, life strategist, and minister. SharRon Jamison has been teaching people principles of love and self-empowerment for more than 25 years. Her career journey has taken her from owning a fitness studio to managing a multimillion-dollar accounts for an international biotech firm. And today, as CEO of the Jamison Group, she offers leadership training and development while specializing in personal transformation and relational healing. She is the author of 4 books. I Can Depend on Me. I've learned a few things. The Strength of My Soul and Deciding to Soar, 180 Lessons to Catapult Your Life. She also has 3 more in the works. SharRon serves as a minister at the Victory for the World Church in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and she holds a BA in journalism from Hampton University, an MBA from Nova Southeastern University, and she is currently pursuing her Master's of Divinity at the Interdenominational Center in Atlanta, Georgia. I think earlier today, I called SharRon a triple threat: beauty, brains, and boldness. And on that note, let's welcome her to Mission Unstoppable. Welcome.
Hi there. I'm so excited to be here with you, Frankie. So thank you so much for letting me come and share today.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited, and I can just feel like this energy and this enthusiasm in the room right now. I want to honor your journey to becoming unstoppable. I think people look at you and go, wow, she's stunning, she's smart, she's not afraid to speak her mind. This is a woman who has it all together. I could never be like her. Now, if only they knew where you came from, if only they knew what, that you were them in the beginning. Like, do you find that folks are astounded when you tell them your story?
Yes, they are, and sometimes they cannot even believe it. But I make them believe it because I hate when people put us on pedestals and think that they don't have the same power and the same ability that we are. But yes, my story is something that I think that if more women tell the story, that people will be able to see themselves, because people are never impressed by your success. People connect on your failures and your flaws. And so my journey, my desire is not to impress people, but to impact them. And so I have to share those broken parts of me that are still in the process of healing.
Wow, that's a really profound thing to say. And I think it's true. Success seems so far away, just like weight loss does to people who are 500 pounds. I mean, it's all so vague in the future, maybe. But when you share with them that, you lived in their neighborhood, or you had the same life experiences, or that you're healing from the same kinds of things that they are, then yes, they can identify with you and feel like, oh, wow, maybe I do have, something in common with this person. No one is born successful like that. I mean, I think that life chips away at us, and it massages and molds those edges and hard places. And it's up to our mind, our inner self, really to bring us to where we want to be. How do you agree with that? Like, how did you get your mind to bring you where you wanted to be, or your thinking?
Oh God, pain.
Yeah, it has a way.
Pain is a great teacher if you're willing to learn, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I had to hit rock bottom, emotionally hit rock bottom, physically hit rock bottom, because I've had some significant health issues. Spiritually, I had to hit rock bottom. And I think that at the bottom, that's where I was able to hear God, because you don't even have enough going on for you that your ego gets to have a voice. You know what I'm saying? So when you know that you're looking up to the curb, feel that you're in that pit, pain really makes you decide how you want to live. Do you want to stay here in this pathology, or do you want to move towards your purpose? But yes, I think that our pain and our adversity shapes us. It encourages us. I love when my pastor talks about this. He says that no lessons are learned at the college of comfort. Lessons are only learned at the university of adversity.
Oh,
And
I like that.
think that at the university of adversity that I was able to start healing, but I had to make healing a choice, because for years it wasn't a choice because I felt powerless. So I think that's what people need to understand, is that you have to know your power and grab on your power, and that takes time.
I think our friend Kathy Craffey might be listening, and if she is, I know she's writing down those words of wisdom. Share them with us all later, Kathy, please. I was very fortunate to receive, your chapter in a book that we're co-writing together. And can I just share a little bit of that? Can I just share
sure.
a paragraph? Is that okay? Because when I read this, I literally sat down and cried, and I thought, wow, like this is so profound. And how does she come from here and be where she is today? And so it really is very impressive. SharRon wrote, "What was difficult was dealing with racism and other forms of oppression that assaulted my soul and stripped me of my ability to love myself. What was painful was being groomed in an environment that taught me that I, a little Black girl, was worthless, dirty, ignorant, and not deserving of love. Living in a society that was polluted with discrimination, bias, and prejudice convinced me that I was nothing, and sometimes I was convinced that I was less than nothing. I hated me, and I hated others who, like me, I was convinced that my life did not matter and that my birth was a mistake." Wow.
Yeah.
Heavy words.
Yeah. And it's almost, just hearing it makes me want to cry too, because it's still real. And sometimes when I'm at very vulnerable places in my life, those messages come up that I'm not enough, or who do I think I am, and who's going to listen to me? Because I still feel as though sometimes I'm that little powerless Black girl who was not accepted or not loved or whatever. So we always have to be mindful that we are a collection of our experiences. And I think that's important, because if not, we won't be able to turn our inner critic into our inner coach. But what I do now, when the demons talk to me, I talk back to them.
Yes.
I think that you have to, your inner coach has to be strong enough, because I think many times we think that we have not accomplished something. But when I hear something like, "Oh, SharRon, they're not going to listen to you," I have to remind myself, "SharRon, you know what? People have been listening to you all of your life." So I coach myself through that. And through every experience, but it always creeps up. Every time I try something new, those gremlins that remind me of my nothingness, of my powerlessness, remind me of that I'm ugly and stupid and fat and all those types of things. And I have to always challenge them with the truth. And
where did that little girl, what age was she when she felt all of that?
Probably from the kindergarten to the 8th grade, because when I was integrating the schools, one experience kept compounding the other. So there was very few places that were providing me with different messages to negate and neutralize those painful messages.
And where were you living there?
Missouri. Yes, I was St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, in St. Louis.
Yeah, then we moved to Sykes. And my father was a minister, so we moved around a lot. And then when I was in the 7th grade, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And that's where my healing started, Frankie, because I went there and everybody was a whole bunch of different colors.
Yes.
And, it was Black, there was brown, there was Native American, there was Mexican. And my father, we always had a multiracial church. And so that's where my healing started, because I didn't feel so isolated and alienated. Because the challenge is that not only did I feel racism, but I also felt it against Black people didn't like me either, because I was a smart kid. I was so I never felt accepted from both sides. I'm going
to tell you something. I went to university in St. Louis, and I went there from Canada, from my home in Canada, and it was the first time in my life I had really ever felt racism. Ever.
Wow.
Ever. It was like an evil place. It really was. And my roommate, I went to a theater arts college and I was in journalism, and my roommate was a Black girl, and we were going to move out into a house, and we'd found this great house, and the landlord looked at me, he goes, yeah, he goes, the rent's like $400. I'm like, fantastic, cheap, you know? And then he goes, is she going to live with you? And I go, yeah, he goes, it's $1,000. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? And she would say to me, I can't bring you home, Frankie. You'd get killed. Like, she lived in East St. Louis. You'd get killed. And it was literally like block white, block black, block white, block black. And you couldn't walk around the city. It was horrible. And I came home, I go, oh my God, I can't wait to leave this place. It's just horrific. Yeah. So you were feeling all that stuff there because me as an outsider felt it, you know, and I wasn't even in the culture. So it was crazy.
Yeah. But I have to say, even though it was challenging, there were always angels in my life that came and stood in their power and helped me start understanding my own power. So I'm so grateful. I always had teachers that would just really challenge the status quo. So even in the midst of that pain, I did get some voices from people that told me that I was okay, that I was enough, and I'm so grateful.
Oh, thank goodness, yeah.
So I did have angels all my life, so I'm really happy about that.
Well, it's really important when, you know, you're getting those messages as a child, and those things are going into your subconscious, and that you're believing them, because the subconscious, as we know, has no right or wrong. It doesn't know. It just knows what you input. And so, you know, I guess the first step to healing was to ask yourself, do I believe this? Do I believe that message? And I call them the members of the board in my head. Talk to the members of the board. Let's hear what they have to say. And they have a lot to say all the time.
All the time. And the thing is, I think that they are always, the members of the board will believe what you tell them. So, and that's why I have to talk back to my demons. I have to remind them that of who I am. Sometimes I think that we have to remind people in our spirits, but also around us who we are.
That's a really good message. We're going to go to commercial break. But one thing to think about as we head out there is that no matter how successful you are, no matter how, you know, how much you feel you've arrived, that you always have to be challenging yourself to remember that you're okay, that you're good enough, that these things, you know, aren't going to take over anymore. It's a powerful lesson. We'll be right back with SharRon Jamison. Don't go anywhere.
Don't stop.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's words you never heard.
Any emergency room nurse will tell you they receive some weird and wild calls. I used to be the night ER nurse at Hennepin County General Hospital in Minneapolis, and remember getting a call from someone who was worried about if it mattered or not if their belly button was an innie or an outie. It doesn't matter, but if you're an outie, you are definitely the minority. Still, that's good news, because you don't have to worry about a little problem that people with innies have. Pledge it. That's another word for belly button lint. Researchers say the color of the pledget in your belly button is related to the clothing you wear, just like the lint that collects in your clothes dryer. A friend of mine from the Philippines says they call it a chikachu. What do you call a person who's obsessed with their belly button? An omphalopsicite.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's words you never heard.
Do you talk to yourself out loud? It's nothing to be embarrassed about. Henry David Thoreau once said, thinking is only the process of talking to yourself, otherwise known as autolalia. Einstein said that talking to yourself is a sign of intelligence. Studies show students who talk to themselves in school do better. And adult studies show that talking to yourself actually improves your memory, boosting your brain power. Talking to yourself can help you avoid being a kitchenheimer. You know, when you walk into the kitchen and forget what you were going to do. What's a word for the tendency to forget why one has gone somewhere? Destination. One advantage of talking to yourself is, at least you know someone is listening.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
And we're back. It's Mission Unstoppable Radio. I'm your host, Frankie Picasso, and my guest today is SharRon Jamison. Before we went on our break, we were talking to SharRon about the members of the board and about how her socialization process left her feeling like she wasn't unloved and she was, a nothing, less than nothing at times. And yet she grew up. And today she provides strategies on how to heal past hurts, how to overcome self-limiting beliefs, how to develop emotional resilience, how to increase personal and professional effectiveness. This is what she does today. And yet, she could have stayed in her victim mode and went, life sucks. Look what it did to me. Or she elevated herself. She created her SOAR program. And here she is. Like, look at you. So, where did the change come for you?
I think the change came from me when I hit rock bottom. By this time,
what did that look like, rock bottom?
Oh, yes. I had a bad eating disorder that I would gain 50 pounds in the summer.
Oh, my gosh.
That I would anesthetize myself with food, that I kept picking bad relationships to confirm my worthlessness, that I left the church and because I felt like the church was not honoring who I was or what I wanted to be, that I just drifted. And so I kept drifting and to the point I had to get into therapy. I had bad depression. I couldn't get out of bed. And it was hard to convince myself to go to get support because I was functioning.
Was this before you went to university, SharRon? Sorry, is this before?
Oh, no, it's after. Well, how did I get through high school? High school was, I don't even remember high school. What I did, I became an overperformer and I, excelled, but I don't even remember high school. I just remembered getting good grades. I kind of checked out of my body and started that whole experience with food that lasted for years. And because that was became a way of medicating. And then when I went to college, I started at Arizona State, left there without thinking, gave up a full scholarship.
Wow.
Went to Hampton, hated that, and worked full time. Went to school full time. I was just floundering because I could not find myself, and I didn't know myself, and I didn't know how to make myself love myself. So I was just whatever something that I thought would take away the pain, I would jump to it. I had no strategy, no planning. And so when I finished college, I just knew I had to do something different because I was no longer functioning. I was so sad. I didn't have a lot of friends. And on the outside, people would have never known that I started being suicidal. The pain got too great. And so after I got into corporate America and started feeling that same racism that I had experienced growing up and feeling like I was not enough, I started going to therapy. And I had to leave my church to go to therapy because my church at that time in the African American tradition, that at that time if you needed a therapist, it meant that you didn't believe God. So I had to deal with all of these spiritual feelings of, oh my God, I know I need help, but it's not that I don't love God. So I had to leave the church because I could not coexist with needing therapy. And then I started feeling that God didn't love me because I had inculcated those messages that I could not go to therapy, and going to therapy meaning that I meant to me that I was neutralizing or negating my relationship with God. Just psychological mess.
Well, let's stop there for one moment because you came from, we're all a product of our parents at some point. And at some point we pull up our bootstraps and we go, okay, enough of that. I'm going to, head off. And which is, I think, what you did. Because if we look at your parents, you had young parents.
Yes.
Your father came from a family of alcoholics and he himself, overcame that. But your mother also came from a family, let's call them religious fanatics, who believed everything was a sin in their life. And so, if anything that you did to have pleasure, watch a movie, do anything crazy like that, listen to a record, like, oh my God, you're a sinner. So, those two coming together, very abstract, at odds with one another, but for sure. Like, how did that, did that, your dad was a preacher, but your mother's like, big time. How did that have any effect in that decision where you went, you know what, I'm leaving? Like, these people are nuts. Like, this church is nuts.
Yes, it did, because I started in that space of my unraveling are peeling away the onions. And then I realized, Frankie, that I didn't believe God like they believed God. God was not a he, God was not a she, and God was God. All us, I started separating religiosity from spirituality. And so I had, but that was part of my healing. So I healed spiritually by understanding who I said God was to me. I healed physically when I started being able to control my food and not and stop excessive exercise, because that's how I would medicate myself. I started to heal emotionally when I went to therapy and started understanding the impact of bullying and how to manage those emotions. I started had to heal mentally, because you'd be surprised that of all the messages that we have in our heads that we don't even realize until they're triggered.
Yeah.
And then I had to leave a lot of friends, because my friends was playing small in my life, and a lot of people benefited and exploited my insecurity and my sense of belonging. So I had to leave all of my friends. And so it was a total transformation. I had to total cleanse myself in that, and I stepped out all by myself. I didn't speak to my family after I got married for about 6 years. Wow. And I had to leave everything, because I had to understand and create a different identity that was not grounded in victimization. Right. I had to understand a whole understanding of God that was not grounded in what I had learned at church. I had to understand who SharRon was, not molded or warped by racism and sexism, because that made me feel helpless. So I left everybody. And
you had you trekked Mount Everest of SharRon. Yeah. How many therapists did you see? Like, did you find one, or did you keep finding one until you found the right one?
Let me tell you, Frankie, can I tell you, that is the hardest place. I probably went through maybe 3 or 4 therapists, because I had to find someone who got me. It was difficult to find a person who got the Black experience, who understood sexism on top of that, who understood an eating disorder, who understood spirituality and religion.
Oh my gosh.
Understood that the whole impact of bullying, and who understood that I wanted to be different. So I wanted to break all those molds, and who also understood that even though I hated church, I still wanted to be a minister in the midst of all of that.
Right.
And people wanted to.
And did this mythical creature exist?
Right. They didn't want to embrace all of who I was. And so and so it was very difficult to have someone to get me to. And then I married a Muslim.
Oh my gosh.
So that was kind of difficult. So people were like, wait a minute, who is this person? But what I was understanding, I was trying to find who I was. Yeah. And either people got the professional me, but not the spiritual me, or the eating disorder, but not the bullying. A lot of people could not put all those pieces of the puzzle, but I needed someone who could help me be whole, and who had a holistic approach. And because I was full of holes already. Yeah. So I wanted someone who I trusted to, and it took me a while to trust someone, because I never felt that everybody got all those different pieces. But when I found her, it was wonderful. And I stayed with her for a while.
It's important to talk about, because, people are afraid to reach out for help. And sometimes, you reach out and it's not right the first time or the second time, and that's okay. Like you find your way through that, and you go, no, you didn't get me. I got to move on. Instead of thinking, oh, there's nobody. You could have thought, oh, nobody's going to ever get me. Right. But you persevered until you found the right one. And, so kudos to you for doing that. And I think it's an important message to anybody who needs help. Because therapy is not, mental health and therapy, they're not things to feel bad about yourself. That's, I give people credit for finding the help they need.
I think that's so important. I love that you say that. And I want people to understand that sometimes a therapist is not what you need. Maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need someone to walk through that journey. Maybe you need a psychiatrist, and so need someone who can write prescriptions. I think there's so many different ways that we need help. And I think that we villainize parts of it, because some people would say, oh, I don't mind going to a therapist, but I don't want to take medicine. Well, so what? Whatever you need to be whole, do it. And some people don't do well in group therapy, and some people blossom in group therapy. I think it's just so important to be open to however healing shows up. And that's my goal to when I talk to my clients. however it shows up. So I don't feel bad when they say, SharRon, I need to move on. I think that's healthy to hear your voice and hear their own voice and to really honor their own desires and their own needs. So therapy was wonderful.
Awesome. I mean, it's like you do parts therapy, and you heal this part and that part and all these different parts. And eventually, you put them all back together and you have SharRon. So did it happen like that for you? Was there an awakening of one part and you go, oh, I feel healed there. Yeah, I can move on. Or was it all like the puzzle all came together at once?
It was in part. I love that you said that. That was my experience. I had to get the spiritual part first because I had to feel that that God still loved me. That was hard for me. So I got the God still loved me, and I also got the part that God is not a blind man with blue eyes. So I had to get that part, So then after I did that and said God can be a woman, so then the second part was the emotional part. But however, the spiritual part was the hardest because I felt like I was betraying my faith by getting therapy. And so then I got the emotional part. And then after I got the emotional part, started that healing, then I started seeing the healing connected to the food. And then I was able to do the physical part. And then I started being able to address some of the physical problems that I caused because of that. I mean, I did a lot of damage to my GI system with my eating disorder that I'm still suffering from now. But I didn't realize that. So all of those pieces went together, but it started spiritually for me because I had to understand that I was not unlovable and that God was going to kick me out the kingdom because I chose therapy. And that was the hardest part, but the most fulfilling part. When I got that part, everything else was fine.
How sad, really. Not that I'm happy that you got healed, but how sad to have a feeling that God wouldn't love you because you needed therapy, you needed help. And I have to think that God gave us therapists so that we could have help. God gave us a brain so we could choose to have somebody who was a therapist to give us help. I mean, that's how I look at that stuff. Not like, if he didn't want you to be healed, he wouldn't have given you a mind and a way to figure that all out. So
I agree.
But that's just me. Anyway, we are going to go to another commercial break in just a moment, and we are going to come back with more SharRon Jamison. She's absolutely fantastic. If you want to give us a call, feel free to do so. I'm going to try to ramble off this number. Whatever. 903-787-5887 will get you to our show, and you can ask her things yourself.
Don't stop.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Don't stop.
It's words you never heard.
Do women need larger parking spaces? The owners of the Togla rest stop in southeastern China think so. They have created a number of parking spaces that are 50% larger, designated for female drivers, with the international symbol for women and outlined in pink. When asked by a Chinese newspaper why they felt the need to enlarge the parking spaces for women drivers, a lot manager explained that they observed female drivers having a difficult time parking, which slowed down the order of traffic. I admit I'm a bit of a baity bummel or bungler when it comes to parking, but is this really necessary? Actually, I was complimented on my parking the other day. Someone left a note that said, "Parking? Fine."
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's words you never heard.
If you're like me, every year you wonder how you're going to dispose of your live Christmas tree. In the desert climate around Reno, Nevada, Christmas trees that are left outside won't decompose. They will just get drier and drier, eventually becoming a serious fire hazard. Vince Thomas, the founder of Goat Grazers, a goat herding business, is now using his 40 goats to help recycle Christmas trees. Hey, I'm not kidding. We all know goats are known to eat just about anything. Thomas used dendrology, or the study of trees, to discover the trees are a natural dewormer for goats, and the pine is very high in vitamin C, so it's healthy for them as well. What's a word for the pine needles that fall off a Christmas tree? Diddle-dees.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and for more Words You Never Heard, check out my podcast at wordsyouneverheard.com.
It's Tuesday. It must be Mission Unstoppable Live time, and it is. I'm your host, Frankie Picasso. My guest today is SharRon Jamison. Isn't she unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. She's come back from, starting out where she felt unloved, and here she is, this amazing, bold, beautiful, brave woman. I just love it. SharRon has some things that I like to call SharRonisms. You've all heard me talk about my Frankieisms. Well, she has those too. and I'm gonna say the first one that comes to my mind. I like this. When people are trying to remind you of your past, turn away. Some comments don't deserve you or your time. Look toward heaven.
Yes. I think that's so important. I have learned in my life that everything doesn't deserve you. Mm-hmm. And if something that deserves me has to be edifying, it has to be elevating, and I think we got to be careful because we give our time and attention to things and to people and to places that don't serve our good. They don't sustain us or support us. So I think that we got to be careful and recognize that we're valuable. We are queens and kings. And some things are just below us and beneath us. And we have to be okay to step away and to step up.
So when you say that, when people are trying to remind you of your past, like it might be somebody that has gotten past their alcoholism or gotten past their demons. And somebody, well, you used to do that. That was you. Don't think you're so far above that.
Yes. And what I realize is that people talk out of their pain. So I have learned that when people are judging me, they're judging me from a place of pain in themselves.
Right. So, that mirror.
That mirror. So I recognize it, but I also recognize that my spirit has been battered, and to subject myself to that type of pain is no different than subjecting someone who's going to make me a battered woman. If I won't let somebody hit me with their hands, I'm not going to let you hit me with your words.
Right.
That's really
we do enough of that inside our head.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a full-time job controlling me.
Exactly. Me too. Oh my God, we're brutal. I love this one. Truth given in love is received. Truth not given in love is resisted. So how can somebody, and it's easy to say and understand, but hard to do. So let's think of a scenario where truth given in love would be received, but not resisted.
I think that in our closest friendships, our closest relationships, those are the ones that we have to give truth to most of the time. And because I don't think any of us become self-aware by ourselves. And I believe if you love someone, you can love them just as they are, but you should love them too much to leave them as they are. Right. That means that you have to talk and you have to speak to them. And I think the way that you speak with people in love is, one, to show your scars. I feel like when I show you my scars and you show you your scars, and that I have demonstrated that I care about you and love you and I want your best for you, I think that we give people more leeway to tell us the truth. And I think that that's so important. I think that you have to tell people when they are not living up to their own potential. I think you have to tell people that they're not doing what they said they wanted to do. Because I think that love requires accountability. And if you're my friend and you're not going to help me be accountable to what I say that is important to me, you're really not my friend, because you would never allow me to slip down into mediocrity or lose momentum if you really love me. And I think that's really important. And so I don't have friends in my life. Like I said, I tell my friends, I don't have stray people in my life. If you're in my life, you have a purpose. And if you're not fulfilling your purpose, I'll put you on a bench and go get another friend. I'm really careful about people being purposeful, but I'm also equally as purposeful in somebody else's life. I'm not a friend I'm talking about my inner circle now.
Sure. Yeah.
My inner circle. If you're not doing your job and helping me be my best by giving me feedback, you can't be in my life. That's why I don't like my close friends. Can't be people without competence or confidence. And you have to have some intellectual horsepower to be my inner circle. I need help, and
I love that intellectual horsepower.
Yeah. If you don't have that, how can you be my friend?
Yes.
How can you add value to me if you don't have enough gumption and enough self-confidence to help me be my best self? Why are you my friend? And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, because you're going to attract a lot of people in your life that are looking for that leg up, that are looking for you to do that horsepower for them. And it's very easy to be attracted to, and it's almost like sexy and it, like you're a mockingjay, that glitter that they look for, because it's very desirous to be like that. But you're putting these people, you're making them accountable for being your friend. You got to have that intellectual horsepower if you want to be my friend. You got to be, right next to me on my level if you want to be my friend. You've got to be doing the same work I'm doing if you want to be my friend. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always say this, and that's why I think that we do better with fewer friends because we're a limited resource. Yes. I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. That's how I feel about my friends.
Yes.
I would have 4 good quarters, or really 2 half a dollars, than 100 pennies.
Yeah.
And so I'm really very careful about friend selection, but I'm also very clear when I go into friendships with people, sitting down and talk about expectations of needs. I always ask people who are close to me. The first question I ask when I bring them into my inner circle: how can I win at loving you? How can I win at loving you? And I want to make sure that I know what they need, so I give them what they need versus what I want to give them. Mm-hmm. And that's really important. If I cannot, I want to win. If not, I don't bring you into my space. And I want you to win at loving me.
Right.
So I'm gonna tell you what I want and what I need. And I think that those are healthy.
That's the hardest thing for people to talk about, is what they need.
Yeah.
Like truthfully to tell you what they need.
I think it's hard. I think it's hard. But I think that as I get older, I realize I don't want people practicing on me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
yes. I don't want all that. I don't want you to guess. I know the manual on SharRon, so let me help you with the manual. And because if not, people will give you stuff and then they get their feelings hurt. It's like this. If I say I want chocolate, I don't care how much vanilla you gave me. I want chocolate.
Right.
And so why? I'm not going to walk around frustrated or resentful or bitter. I'm just saying this, if you can't do it, it's fine. I'm not mad. You can always say no, and I'm always open to negotiating. But what I won't do is to have a friend who is not allowing me to serve a purpose in their life, and the person's not being purposeful in mine. I just don't have time for that. When I was 30s and 40s, maybe, but 50s, we have limited time. So now it's time for me to do all and be all and to say all. I want to leave a legacy of for my family and for others. I want to leave a legacy for women of what it means to love themselves and to walk in their feminine power. And I can't do that if I have to take all my energy instead of creating something. I'm managing a bad relationship.
Exactly.
That's what people need to understand. Bad relationships are draining.
Amen. I find as a coach, though, like in all of my relationships, whether they're friends or romantic relationships or whatever, there's that neon sign that's above your head. I'll help you. Come here. I will help you. And it's hard to turn it off sometimes. And so people are attracted to that because that personage that wants to help all the time is always open and ready to listen. Being a coach is not what you chose to do. It's who you are. And so people think it's really easy just to, sidle up and go, hey, let me tell you my story. And they do. But it doesn't mean I want to hear your story all the time.
Yeah.
I have a story too. And you got to help me with mine. Right? Like, that's how it goes.
Yeah, Frankie, I'm laughing because not only as a coach, but people always think I want to pray for them. I'm looking like, listen, I pray for you in the morning. I pray for you on Sunday. Don't call me out during the week because I'm off duty.
Off duty. The sign is off. Turn it off. I love it. I love it. Here's another one. When you get full of anger, bitterness, doubt, insecurity, hatred, unforgiveness, self-loathing, pride, pathology, dysfunction, drugs, alcohol, and the list goes on, you limit, reduce, minimize, and marginalize yourself. Be careful.
Yes, I believe that when we get doped up, we dumb ourselves down.
Mm-hmm,
and I think that there's a lot of ways that we get doped up that I don't think people realize. People always think about drugs and alcohol, but we can get doped up on our ego, our pride. We can get doped up on people pleasing. And anytime we get so full of something, we fail. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be very careful about how we are dumbing ourselves down or how we are doping ourselves up with things that don't serve us. So I'm really careful about in my life and with my clients and asking them, listen, you're doped up on fear. You're doped up on self-pity. You doped up on your own story of limitations. Something is always doping us up, that makes us dumb down to our own strength, our own power, our own presence, our own sense of self. And I think it's important that people are able to identify their own dope, because we all have it. We just got to know what it is and call it, because I think that confession is good. And I think that if we can, what we will fess up to, we can fix it. So I think that's really, really critical.
You've got some transformative messages that you give in sessions, and you've got leadership in you. We really aren't that different. Foundation for elevation and communication that inspires. I want to go to the foundation for elevation for a moment, because I think it could be central to your SOAR program.
Yes, the foundation for elevation is all about making sure we have the internal infrastructure for success and abundance. I think that sometimes people, they start building on the outside, but if you don't have the structure and the self-confidence on the inside, you have nothing to build your character on. You have nothing to build your tenacity on. You have nothing to build your internal fortitude on. So I think in our internal structure is what allows us to grow and to build and to elevate. And I think we spend so much time on our education, but we don't spend time on preparing ourselves. I tell my clients all the time, it's so challenging for me, because people will spend so much money on their appearance. And I don't care how they look on the outside. If your head is cloudy and your heart is dirty, it doesn't matter.
Right. No, I agree with that. And, you can have all the trappings, but, the flood can come and make it all float away, and you're left there naked. And then how are you going to retrieve all of it? And that's the inner game. That's the fortitude inside. That's that unstoppable person who gets up and says, okay, I'm not done yet.
Oh my God, I love that. I always tell people you can have trappings, but still be trapped.
Yes. Yes.
And that being that trap is what I think is so hard for people like you and I, when we're working with our clients, is to get them untrapped. Because I don't care what you have, is what on the outside is what you have on the inside that's going to sustain you.
Absolutely. We're going to go to another commercial break. I can't believe it, but I love that. You can have trapping. You can have trappings and still be trapped. That's very powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. And you have to listen to SharRon here, because it is all about your inner person. She did a lot of work on her inner person to get to where she is. I did too. You want to be unstoppable? There's work to be done, but you can get there. Here we go. We're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere.
That's right. Don't stop listening. Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso will continue right after these messages.
Stop.
It's words you never heard.
Gifts may gladden girls, but they seem to burden guys. That's what a recent study by Live Science says. Women respond with happy gratitude when they receive a present. But when a man unwraps a gift, he immediately feels a sense of obligation to the giver. Even those women who really don't like getting presents are pretty good at faking a smile. What do you call a person who fakes a smile? An exedesiast. According to psychologists, men tend to keep mental notes of what they got from whom and check it against their own generosity. Women, on the other hand, take gift-giving much less seriously. I guess ever since Eve gave Adam the apple, there's been trouble between sexes about gifts. Have you ever unwrapped a G-Food jet? That's another name for any gift you'd just rather put in the garbage.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Whether you are a man, woman, boy, or girl, lifting weights is an important component to your exercise program. Livestrong says that challenging your body with different exercises and routines helps keep your workout interesting and effective. Make sure that when you're lifting weights, you are working to fatigue or failure to get the most benefits. When lifting weights, reaching failure means that you could not possibly do one more rep. Your muscle has failed. Fatigue means you can barely do one or two more repetitions and keep your good form. If your workout is too easy and you're not reaching failure or fatigue, it's time to lift heavier weights. Be aware that your form is vital, and reaching fatigue or failure is much more important than hitting a certain number of repetitions. I'm Annette Hammond. Like us on Facebook at Fitness Minute with Annette Hammond.
Well, it is Mission Unstoppable. We're at the last leg of our journey here with our guide, SharRon Jamison. I'm sure you fell in love with her over the last 45 minutes or so. So why don't you go to her website, www.sharronjamison.com, and you can find out more about what she does and all the programs that she offers. Yeah, I mean, she's got those 4 books. She's got another 3 coming out. You can't lose. You cannot lose with this lady. So I was on Facebook and you posted. I loved it. She's on her like her bike, and she's like, and another thing, people. Let me tell you about this. Doing Facebook Live, it was perfect, just perfect. And you talked about the disaffect.
Yes.
I love that. Tell us about that.
Well, it's something I had to start developing to help my clients identify emotions that they would not talk about. and so however, people could not tell me if they felt sad or angry or frustrated. So I started saying, okay, do you feel disappointed, discouraged? Do you feel, disrespected, disempowered? And then people are like, yeah, I feel those things. So I made this little template, and it gave people a voice to help me understand what the experience was, but the impact of the experience on their lives. And so we just started talking about the disaffect, and I started having seminars around it, because sometimes people can't identify what they're feeling. They can tell you mad, glad, and sad.
Well, I've always found that it's always been the men that were, mad, found, and sad. Like those are the guys that's all they knew. But I'm surprised to hear that the women are like that.
Yeah, I think they would say, well, SharRon, I feel unheard. Okay, they might say that. Then I said, okay, well, how does that show up? Because I wanted to see it and want them to see it. Mm-hmm. Then they would say, well, I feel like I feel disempowered at work, or I feel like I'm in my mother's shadow, or I feel whatever. But however, it helped me understand to say, oh yeah, I feel this. I feel disappointed. I feel distracted. It helped us have good conversations. Nice. And so then it was like, I would go to my clients and we're like, hey, so now it's just something we say, oh, I feel dissed. And I'll say, okay, which one? And then they will tell me. And it was just a way to be able for them to see
very clever
feelings. Yeah.
I used to ask people where they felt things, and men especially. I felt that they didn't have the lexicon that ladies had to describe in minutia how they were feeling, or they know what's sad and maybe they know what blue is, but they didn't know beyond that. Because they didn't use those words. Like we could sit in a washroom and talk about all that stuff, ad nauseum, but they don't. And so I always felt that they were lacking, the book on feelings.
Yes,
the words, the lexicon on the book were feelings, right? They felt those things. They just didn't know what they were.
You know what is so interesting, Frankie? I think this younger generation, my clients that are 30, I think they're starting to struggle too, because they're so used to talking in text and email.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And sometimes I told them that emoji is not an emotion for real. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That because you use it. And so sometimes I'm finding that they don't have the lexicon, and they struggle to help them to be able to articulate the feeling. They can say, well, it doesn't feel good, I feel hurt. So that's why I try to have some type of framework to identify the emotions. But I'm starting to find that people, especially the ones that grew up in this fast-paced text, 140 characters type of environment, are not as quick to identify their emotions, and I can see that their struggle because
I don't think they have to, SharRon. This is a generation that breaks up over text. Like where's the heart in that? Where's the emotion in that? Where's the humanity in that? Yeah. Right? Really? If you can just go, you know what? I don't think I like you anymore. See you later. Boom. Bye. And now I can block you. So you can't even answer me back. So they don't get closure. Like, I mean, this is what it's come to.
Yeah, you can tell that they're struggling too.
Yeah.
And they're so lonely. And I tell people, even though you are connected, does not mean that you're close. And so I think that people are electronically connected, but they're not emotionally close. And I've never seen so many people feel alienated and isolated in the midst of this major connectivity.
I've
And
talked about it before on the show, but I see families out to dinner and mom and dad are on cell phones and 2-year-olds and 18-month-olds at the table are being ignored.
yeah, yeah.
Where's the family in that? Where's the family time, the connection, the communication? Where is that going? When every individual has more of a need to be on their phone than to be with the person who's in the room with them.
Absolutely. And some people don't even, I'm realizing they don't even know how to be with people. And many times when I do my coaching with couples, you can see that even in the midst of a therapeutic situation, being able to connect in truth, being able to be vulnerable, being able to identify and claim an emotion, that's very difficult. And it's interesting. I can always tell how a person was raised by their ability or the inability to welcome those emotions, to communicate those emotions, to be able to sit in it so that they can process it. I see many times people want to throw the emotions away, and that's why I started talking to them about the difference between a campfire and a bonfire. Because
I like that.
I have to bring all these analogies to help people see it. Does that make sense?
Very clever. I love that analogy between the campfire and the bonfire. You've got this campfire where you can still control everything and you haven't lost, control. The forest isn't going to go on fire yet. But when you have that bonfire and, you need hordes of firefighters to come in and planes to dump water on it, like you're lost now. Now you really let the beast go. Yes. So it's important to get to the point, to be able to talk before you get to the point of blowing.
Absolutely. And I think with our jobs as coaches, I think what is helpful when we do one-on-one is to give people permission just to be able to honor their emotion and to honor whatever that emotion is without feeling guilty. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. Yes, your mother is not off limits. You can be frustrated, to give themselves permission, because I find many times people won't even give a voice to their feeling, but you can tell in their body, they have migraines and stomach aches and all types of indigestion issues, or you can tell that they're not showing up at work and they're struggling and they're settling and they're miserable, but they cannot say, I hate my job, or I hate my profession, or I hate my husband, or I made a bad decision. And I think sometimes with coaches like you and I, we just give people permission to say what they really want to say, what they really need to say to start the healing journey.
I mean, everybody's afraid of something, whether it's change or even good things. People are afraid of good things. They're afraid of success. They're afraid of failure. And within that fear comes all of that. And when I used to have people come in my session, okay, you got 2 minutes to BMW. It's bitch, moan, and whine. And after that, then you take accountability for those feelings.
I love that. I might have to take that one.
You can take that one.
I love that. Wow. That's so true. I love that. Thank you for that. I might have
You're
to
welcome.
use that one.
I mean, that's how it works, right? Now, we're coming up to the last few minutes of our show. I want to talk about, you wrote, for all the women over 50, our latter days will be our better days. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And, in a couple more weeks, I hate to say it, but I'm hitting a new decade. And, it's given me time to ponder. It's a little scary in a way, but I do think that, I haven't stopped creating, and we don't stop creating if we don't want to. And I have a wonderful role model. I have my dad, who was 80 years old and started a new company. So, wow. I mean, it's fantastic. But, I guess we all get caught up eventually in society and how society sees us as, older women and disposable, maybe a little bit. You're not as quote unquote seen as you used to be.
Yes, so true, so true. I think that for me, I am just, when I first started going through menopause and start seeing the wrinkles and start seeing that my body was not responding to exercise like it used to be, it really bothered me. But then I started feeling this quiet assurance that I had collected enough experiences that I am an expert on SharRon. And then I have enough experiences that I know how I need to function in the world and what's my strengths and what sustains me and supports me and satisfies me. And so now as I enter, I'll be 52 this year. It's something about that peace that comes that I feel like I don't have to go along to get along. And that is the journey and the love of being this age.
I felt very powerful in my early 50s. I did. Like, I thought, wow, it's hitting 60. That's another thing. And it's amazing how much change happens in the course of 5 years. Even at 55, I'm like, it's nothing. But the last 5 years, boy, it's like, wow, now I see it. I didn't see it at 50. I didn't look different, but now I see it. And now it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're old. And, we're different 60 than my parents' 60, right?
Yes.
They didn't look like us. They looked like old people. But
So true. So true.
They bought into it, right? I got to do this and I got to do that. But it is different. But those feelings are there, and maybe they're there our whole lives. And now I'm just dealing with some of it. Who knows? But I do agree with you though that we've got, God bless, maybe 20, 30 years to live forward, and we're going to do it brilliantly. We have to.
I think so. And the world needs us. I think we're at this place in our life that we can share with the world because we have wisdom, we have love, we have patience. I think at our age, 50 and 60, we are best suited because just think, the kids have the gadgets and we have the guts. We need each other. And I try to make sure I can always learn from people, but I always want to pour into people because you and I are the people that we are charged with training the generation behind us. And what a wonderful responsibility.
Yes.
What a privilege, I think, for you and I to gain so much that we can give back to the world. Because if we don't give it back, they won't have the skills or the modeling to be their best self. So I'm excited.
So true. Ladies and gentlemen, SharRon Jamison, the wisdom of the wonderful SharRon Jamison, www.SharRonJamison.com. Please go to her website and visit her. This has been another Mission Unstoppable Radio. Your host, Frankie Picasso, signing out now. But thank you so very much for joining me each and every week. And thank you, SharRon, so much for being my guest today. You're amazing.
So grateful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Everybody, peace out.
Don't stop.
When the chips were down, they didn't stop. Stories of people who, when the odds were against them, turned defeat into victory. You've been listening to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. See you next time, and always remember,
Don't stop.